Today I'm doing spare ribs, and I'm going to do a barbecue battle between the two great barbecues of Texas and Eastern Carolina. So let's get into it. So here I have a couple racks of spare ribs. I love spare ribs. The main reason is you get more meat and it's less money per pound. It's a no-brainer really. If you can't find them, St. Louis ribs will work, but you're gonna pay a little bit more money. I found these to be around the $1.99 range. And I really enjoy how big of a rib you get out of these. So like I said, I'm going to be comparing Texas and Eastern Carolina specifically. And I'm going to tell you right off the bat, my favorite kind of barbecue is Eastern Carolina barbecue. So I may be a little biased, so just keep that in mind. Now I really love Eastern Carolina barbecue because their main protein they use is pork. But the bigger reason I like it is the vinegar style sauce that they use. Now what they do for flavors in Texas is pepper and smoke. Now they can keep it super simple with salt and pepper because they are able to get such a fantastic smoke flavor on their meats, and really that is some great flavor as well. So let's go ahead and get these out of the package and we'll start getting them seasoned. All right, so let's get these opened right up. And I just like to pat them dry. All right, so spare ribs definitely will need some work, trimming wise. First thing I like to do is you see this little flap meat here. Let's go ahead and trim that down. And save this for whatever you save your trimmings for. If you save them, I suggest saving them up because eventually you'll be able to make some delicious sausage. Now I like to come to the end here, kind of find the last little bone, just trim that off. Now on this side, it's going to have this chine bone right here. You can cut that out. Now there's some pieces of cartilage in here. It'll feel hard, but you'll be able to cut right through it. Just like that. See those pieces of cartilage, just cut right through there. Now I'm going to get this flipped over, and now we kind of just want to shape this a little bit. All these little bits are going to get a little burnt up. See, it's a little thin here. Just going to round these corners out, but not too bad. Trim a little of this fat off. This looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go ahead and get the other rack trimmed up. So I didn't mention how I was going to cook the Carolina style ribs. Now the way that they usually cook meat is on some sort of direct heat cooker, like a big pit or something. So today I'm going to be using my pit barrel cooker because that is a direct heat style of smoker. All right, now the other thing I'd like to mention is the membrane on here. Both the ways we're cooking this, you're going to be able to leave this membrane on. That's a great thing I love about this. Super easy, you don't have to peel this off. And you can see all this fat under here. This membrane actually helps keep that fat in the ribs so they are super juicy. And we're going to make sure that that is properly cooked so you won't even notice it. Now over here on this side, you can see there's a bunch of fat and the rib is right at the end. What I like to do is just go ahead and trim that last little rib off. The other rack didn't have that on there, but you can see this is mostly just fat. Then just round this off a little bit. And then I'll just come over and trim a little of this fat off. All right, so there we go. That looks pretty good. Might trim this a little bit here. It's all about getting it nice and aerodynamic. Trim a little of that fat off. That looks pretty good. So I think the Texas style ribs are going to take a little longer, so we'll get these started first. Like I said, salt and pepper. That's all we're going to need on these. I'm not using a binder. They're tacky enough. I'm gonna go on with a good amount of this black pepper. Get it flipped over. Same thing. That's what I love about Texas barbecue. Super simple, and the flavors are absolutely phenomenal. If you can get that smoke flavor on there. And the black pepper really helps pick up some smoke flavor as well. All right, then just get the sides, get all that seasoning off the board. These are ready to go, so let's go ahead and throw these right on the smoker now. So you can see the smoker is at 125. I just started this fire, as you can see. Got a couple big logs on there, and it's just starting to catch. And you can see as the smoker is starting to warm up, we have some really good smoke right now. So I don't want to lose out on any of that good flavor. So while it's nice and smoky, we're gonna throw our ribs right on there. And I want that thicker end where my heat's coming from. And in my smoker, I'm always using this blocker wood because there's a lot of heat hitting that piece of the meat right there. So let's go ahead, close this up, let this smoke. Now I want to run this thing for about an hour at like 200 degrees to get a really good smoke flavor on it, and then we will crank it up after that. But let's go ahead and get these Carolina ribs made up. So before I season those ribs, let's get this pit barrel started. Here I have some lump charcoal with a few pieces of hickory chunks in there. So let's get these lit up. And we can grab this, get that down in our barrel. And these gloves are awesome. These are Grill Armor gloves. I will put a link to these in the description below. These are great for stuff like this or messing around with the fire in your offset. But while this catches, let's go ahead and season these ribs. All right, so let's get the Carolina ribs seasoned. All right, so for these Carolina ribs, I'm going to be doing it like my favorite barbecuer out there, Rodney Scott. He's the king of Carolina barbecue. So I'm going to be following his rib recipe pretty much to a T. And I'm going to be using his rub, so let's go ahead and season these with that. So I've already went ahead and made up his rub. Now what it consists of is salt, MSG, black pepper, paprika, some chili powder, brown sugar, garlic powder, onion powder, and cayenne. I've used this stuff plenty of times. It is fantastic. And we're also going to be using that vinegar sauce as well. And he has a specific way that he does his ribs that we're going to be doing today. That's why I use the pit barrel cooker, because you need a direct heat smoker to do it. So I'm just going to pat that in, get the sides, and there we go. We see that rub has a beautiful color. So I'm just going to let these sit for about 10 minutes while that pit barrel finishes heating up. All right, the ribs have been sitting for about 10 minutes. See how beautiful they look now. Let's check those out. All right, but the pit barrel is ready. So let's go ahead and get these on. Now we're going bone side down. You can see they just fit in there. I'm just going to get these rods in. Even though we're not using them, they regulate the temp. And then get the lid on, let those cook. All right, so ribs are on the offset and they're on the pit barrel cooker. Now from my experience, the offset smoker Texas style ribs are going to take longer than the Carolina style. Usually with spare ribs, Texas style, I'm looking at maybe 6 hours or so. Now for the Carolina style, it can be anywhere from 3.5 to 5-ish maybe. Now with the Texas style ribs, I watched a few videos, but everyone knows Texas style salt and pepper, but getting that smoke flavor is very important. Now the idea of putting the meat on as the smoker is coming up to temp I got from Jerby's Barbecue. If you haven't seen his channel, be sure to check it out. He has some great videos and they have awesome information in them. And he works for one of the best barbecue places in the country, so obviously he knows what he's doing. So I saw him put meat on a cold smoker and then start his fire, so he got all that nice smoke when the fire's starting. Now obviously you hear all the time, don't cook with dirty smoke, and that's true if you're going to be doing it the whole cook. But in this case, it's just in the beginning, so it's not a big deal, and you're going to get some really good smoke flavor from it. But for these Texas ribs, what I'm going to do is let them go till they get a really nice color on them. Then we're going to flip them over and let that membrane side cook just a little bit. Then I'm going to pull them off, get them wrapped in some butcher paper, and we're going to add a nice barbecue sauce to it as well. Now for the Carolina ribs, like I said, I'm going to be following Rodney Scott's recipe. I've already used his rib rub. I'm going to make his vinegar sauce, and we're going to do his cooking style of ribs. Now if you want to know the exact recipe for the rib rub, be sure to pick up his book. This is an amazing cookbook. All the recipes in here are absolutely fantastic. The coleslaw recipe is the best coleslaw I have ever tried. He's also got that vinegar sauce recipe in here, so we're going to go ahead and make that. And he tells you his method of cooking ribs, which is what we're going to be doing today. Like I said, we're going to let them get a nice color on the top. Then we're going to take our mop sauce, mop them, flip them over, and mop them again. This is his method of mop, flip, mop, and it turns out some super tender, juicy, flavorful spare ribs. But for now, I'm just going to let these things cook, but let's go ahead and make up that mop sauce and barbecue sauce for both these ribs. All right, so the Rodney's mop sauce starts with some white vinegar. Now, I'm not doing the recipe exactly because in the book, it is for a gallon of white vinegar. So I'm not trying to make that much. So this is going to be by eye. If you want to see the exact recipe, like I said, just go and get that cookbook. It is well worth it. So it starts off with some white vinegar, then going with some thinly sliced onion, thinly sliced lemon, and then what I like to do is just go in with some lemon juice as well. Now this is a very simple sauce recipe, and you don't need to heat it up. So the next ingredient, some black pepper, some red pepper chili flakes, and the last thing is some cayenne pepper. So it is a spicier sauce, but this goes so well. Like I said, we don't cook it because we use it as a mop sauce, so it's going to cook while the meat is smoking. But just go ahead and give that a mix. Does that not look amazing or what? You just tell it's going to be amazing. But I did forget one ingredient, and it is pretty important for this mop sauce because you're definitely going to need some sweetness. So I'm going to go in with some sugar, and a decent amount of it at that. So now give it a mix. And when you use it as a mop sauce, you're going to have to make sure to give it a very good mix before you use it, because a lot of that seasoning is going to stick to the bottom. But that is that. The ribs should be ready, so let's go ahead and give them a mop. All right, we are 2.5 hours on these ribs. Let's give them a check. And look at that, nice and beautiful. Let's get these rods out of here. Check it out. Nice color, that's what we're looking for. You can see it got a little hotter over here because it's closer to the side. But all in all, these look pretty good. That seasoning is nice and stuck on there. So let's go ahead and get these mopped. All right, so I just started mopping these ribs with that delicious mop sauce. Just make sure you mix it up like I said, and you just want to get a good amount of it on there. Just like that. This is why you want to make sure the seasoning is set, so you don't want to wipe off any of that seasoning as you're mopping. So let's go ahead and get these flipped over. Oh, nice. And you can see it got a little dark over here. Pit barrel cooker is not ideal because it gets a little hot. but go ahead and mop this side. And that is it. We're gonna let this go for probably another 45 minutes, and I might even give it another mop and flip. All right, guys, we are at the 3-hour mark. These ribs smell fantastic. Let's check them out. Oh yeah. See that beautiful color we got on there? Absolutely wonderful. Check that out. Nice red mahogany color there. So these look like they're just about done. All I want to do, I think, is flip them over and let the membrane cook just for about 30 minutes. All right, so let's take a look at the bottom. Nice. So you can see the membrane is getting a little bit of color on it, but I just want some more. So I'm going to flip these upright like this and let them go for another half an hour, and then we will get them wrapped up. So for the Texas style barbecue sauce, we are going to need a pot because we are going to be heating this up a little bit. It's going to start with some apple cider vinegar. Maybe a 1/4 cup or so, I don't know. Now, I don't know what a Texas style barbecue sauce is, but I'm going to do my best to recreate it. I'm going to go in with a little bit of ketchup, some Worcestershire sauce, a little bit of Frank's Red Hot, some mustard powder. This stuff is great in barbecue sauces, adds an awesome flavor, but it also acts as a great binder. Now I want to go in with some smoked paprika. It's going to add some great color. A little garlic powder. Some chili powder. And the last thing is a good amount of black pepper, obviously, for Texas. Now I also didn't add any sweetener in here because I have that ketchup. I think that'll be plenty sweet enough. But just mix this up, break up all that mustard powder, get everything very well incorporated. And you can see it's got a nice thickness to it. And we're going to heat this up. That looks pretty good. And once we start heating it up, if it starts to get a little thick, I can just add a little more vinegar. So let's go ahead and get this warmed up. All right, so to warm this sauce up, I'm just going to throw it right on my firebox. This will do a great job of warming this up. Just going to get a lid on there, let that warm up, and then we will have it ready when we need it for the ribs. Speaking of the ribs, I think it's time to get them wrapped, so let's go give them a check. These are looking really nice. See that membrane has got some nice color on it now. Let's get them flipped over. Just check out the color on there. Does that not look good or what? Nice beautiful red color. Nice. So I just want to check them for tenderness. They feel pretty good. Nice and tender. They can definitely go a little longer. About 170 for temp, so yeah, they still need some time. But these look great, so we're gonna go ahead and get them off and get them wrapped, and that will finish them off pretty quickly. Let's go ahead and do that now. So to get these wrapped up, we're gonna be using some butcher paper today. All right, here are the ribs. You can see these things are absolutely beautiful. They smell so good. Just salt and pepper, really nothing beats that flavor. I'm gonna go ahead and lay these down. And what I like to do is put on a little beef tallow before I wrap it up. Let me give you a close-up of these ribs. Check that out. Really nice color we got on there. But like I said, I like to put a little beef tallow on here, and conveniently, I'm making some right over here. As you can see, it's not really fully rendered yet, but this will work. So I'm just gonna scoop a little bit of this tallow. Oh yeah, fresh tallow, this is gonna be good. Then I'm just gonna go ahead, pour it right over these ribs. This is gonna add beautiful richness to these ribs. And you know what? I think we need a little more. Beautiful. All right, these are ready to wrap. All right, now that we got the fresh beef tallow, let's go give this a wrap. Try and keep it nice and tight. All right, there we go. Wrapped up. Now we can just take these and throw them right back on the smoker. All right, so now I'm gonna let them go probably for another hour or so. I'm looking to get them to an internal of about 195 degrees. At that point, we'll get them unwrapped, throw on that sauce, put them back on for a little bit, and then they will be ready. All right, another 45 on these ribs. Check them out. These are looking really nice. You can see the pull away at that bone. That's telling me these are probably almost finished. Give these a check. So down here where they got a little dark, yeah, they feel great. I figured this is done here. We're at about, oop, pushed through a little too far. So yeah, we're at 200, 199, 198. Yeah, here in the thick part, this is feeling pretty good as well. See if I get a temp. About 198, so these are probably almost done. What I want to do is just give these another quick mop. All right, so another mop on this back side. Now I'll give these a flip. We'll let the smoke settle down. But you can see those look pretty good. And I put this end over there because I know it's not as hot right there. I can see the coals have kind of burned down there. So now I just want to mop this top side. Oh, got a lemon on there. Just trying to use up all this mop sauce. This stuff is so good. All right, there we go. Now I'm just gonna let this go probably for like 15 more minutes, so we'll pull them off and get them wrapped. Now the Carolina style ribs are finished, so I'm gonna go ahead, pull them off, get them wrapped, and we will let them rest. So I'm gonna be wrapping these up in some tin foil. Let me go get the ribs. Oh, all right, so just check these out. I hope you can see how beautiful these look. And you can feel they're nice and tender. So what I want to do here is get them wrapped up, but I have a little bit of that mop sauce left. So I just want to go ahead and just dump it on here. So much good flavor in there, I don't want to waste it. Now I'm going to put these meat side down right in all that sauce. Then go ahead and dump a little bit more on top. Now we just get this wrapped up. All right, now I'm gonna get another piece just to make sure all that nice mop sauce stays inside here. So there we go. Usually I'll let these sit for about an hour and then they are ready. But considering today we got to compare them to those Texas style ribs, I'm gonna have to let these sit probably a little bit longer. So I'm gonna let these chill out for an hour, and then if those ribs are not ready yet, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep these in my warmer at 160 degrees till they are ready. Speaking of those ribs, let's go ahead and give them a check. All right, it's been another hour wrapped up. Let's give these a check. So I just want to unwrap these. Oh yeah, see they're coming along nice. The meat is pulling away from the bones beautifully. Feeling pretty tender. If I grab them here, yeah, they feel pretty good. So let's go ahead and just get a quick temp check. Yeah, we're about 195. That is perfect. You want to bring the ribs up to about 200 degrees. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is get some of that barbecue sauce, and we're just gonna dump this right on here. Make sure you get a good amount on there. Then I'm just gonna rub this all over these ribs. Get it coated beautifully. Now we're just gonna wrap these up, get these back in the smoker. I'm gonna let them sit in there for another half an hour to let that sauce just meld with everything. Then I'm gonna pull them off, let them rest, and we will be ready to try both our racks of ribs. All right, so here are both our ribs. The Texas style ribs took about 5.5 total hours. Carolina style was about 4.5 total hours. I've rested both of these for at least an hour. The Carolina ribs were about 2 hours, but let's get these unwrapped and see how they came out. So let's go right ahead with this Texas style ribs, since they're on top. Oh yeah, got the nice sauce on there. So what I like to do when I unwrap it is get some of the sauce from the bottom that's mixed up with that tallow, and just go ahead and rub it all into these ribs. Just coat them beautifully, and these look so good. Got that nice barbecue sauce on there. They are tender. Check them out. Those are some nice looking ribs. So let's get those to the side, get rid of this paper. And we'll get our Carolina ribs wrapped up in foil. Ooh. That vinegar hits you right as you start opening it up. These are going to be amazing. Nice and tender. I can see they're just falling apart here. And give those a look. See, they have a beautiful bark on there and just the vinegar smell. And the direct heat cooking gives a fantastic smell to these. Get those over there. This tin foil out of the way. Now we can get these down. Now let's get these sliced up because I want to see which one's better. All right, so let's go ahead and cut these Texas style ribs up first. And as usual with ribs, I like to cut them upside down so I can see the bones. Ooh, yeah. But before I keep cutting these, check out the membrane on there. Cooked beautifully. You're not even going to notice it. And when you get towards this end of the ribs, the bones start to fan out a little bit. So just keep that in mind. Beautiful. Let's get this flipped over. That's why I love spare ribs. Get these big pieces of rib, just like this one right here. Check that out. Holy thick is that a rib. Check it out. See, it's nice and juicy. This is going to be good. You can see the smoke ring on there too. Just check that out. Nice little smoke ring we got. Juicy. All right, so let's just get these out of the way for now. Let's get these Carolina style and get these sliced up. And again, check out that membrane. This one's even better because of that direct fire. You can see it's tender. Just falling apart on me here. Nice. I'm gonna take that little chunk. Oh my God. Yep. Check that out. You can see it's got a nice smoke ring as well. Nice and juicy. Oh yeah, super tender. But let me give each one of these a try, and I'm going to tell you which one I like more. All right, I got to give these a try. I'm going to start with this Carolina style rib first because I already had a little bite of one of them. But I'm going to take this one right here. See how this thing came out. Super juicy, super tender. That vinegar sauce is amazing. Has amazing chew to it, but it is still super tender. See, it just comes right off the bone there. Like I said, you don't even notice that membrane on there. It actually has a nice little flavor to it. Man, I could eat these all day long. That vinegar sauce really goes so well with the pork. Amazing. But I got to give these Texas style ribs a try so I can really compare. I'll tell you what, these things look super juicy. But let me go ahead and give this thing a try. That's amazing. Again, beautiful chew to it, but it is super tender. Falls right off the bone. And again, you can see that membrane is super tender and, like I said, has a fantastic flavor. For me, I thought it was going to be a shoo-in for the Carolina rib, but I'll tell you what, these Texas ribs are giving these Carolina ribs a run for the money. The smoke flavor on those ribs is fantastic, and the basic salt and pepper is great for a rub. That sauce adds just the right amount of flavor at the end. Man, those are savory and delicious. All right, so I had a little memory card issue, but that gave me time to think about which rib I actually liked more. Now, it was really close, and they are both absolutely delicious. And it really depends on what you're in the mood for and what you're looking for. But for me, I have to choose the Eastern Carolina style rib, the Rodney Scott method. The flavor on there is just phenomenal. Flavors on there are absolutely phenomenal. And one of the big things I like is that direct heat style of cooking. It just has a different flavor that you don't get with a traditional offset smoker. So don't get me wrong, Texas style is fantastic, but for me, I just love that direct heat style cooking. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like. I'm gonna put a link to everything I like to use in my videos down below, so be sure to check that out. And if you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe right over here. And if you wanna see another great barbecue video, you can check this one out over here. But most importantly, get out there and smoke something good.